Gloria Swanson died today in New York hospital, which she entered in mid-March after what friends described as a slight heart attack. She was 84. Correspondent Jerry Bowen looks at a Hollywood original.
She'd married 6 times, once to Wallace Beery. But romantically, she was most famous for an extramarital love affair she had with the late Joseph Kennedy, the father of JFK and Robert Kennedy.
Decades after her death, Gloria Swanson's secret past is coming to light. Private photos from her silent film days, long thought lost, have surfaced, offering a rare, unfiltered glimpse into her life. The images reveal more than just her beauty. They show a woman struggling with the very fame she once craved. What did Swanson keep hidden from the world, and why did she hide these photos away? The truth is far more shocking than you think. Gloria Swanson was born on March 27, 1899, in Chicago, Illinois. Her father, Joseph, was a soldier in the U.S. Army, and her mother, Adelaide, came from a mix of German, French, and Polish roots. Because of her dad's job, Gloria's family moved around a lot. They lived on military bases across the country, and even in tropical places like Key West, Florida, and Puerto Rico. One day, in 1914, Gloria's life changed forever. She was just 15 when her Aunt Inga took her to S&A Studios in Chicago, a big name in early American movies. Her aunt knew one of the studio's founders, George K. Spoor, and during the visit, Gloria boldly asked if she could be in a film. To everyone's surprise, she got the chance to be an extra in a crowd scene. That small moment was the start of something incredible. Gloria's first role didn't pay much, just $3.25 for 4 days of work. She appeared as an uncredited extra in a movie called The Song of Soul, 1914. But even in that small part, she stood out. A director noticed her natural charm and gave her a bigger role. Soon after, the studio offered her a job as a stock player, where she acted in multiple films. Excited by her success, Gloria decided to quit school and focus on acting, even though her parents weren't happy about it. At 17, Gloria Swanson made a big decision that changed her life forever. In 1916, she left her home in Chicago and moved to California with her mother. They didn't know it at the time, but this was the start of Gloria's incredible journey to becoming a Hollywood star. Right after arriving, she got a job at Max Sennett's Keystone Studios, which made funny slapstick comedies. She earned just $13.25 a week, but it was her first step towards something much bigger. At Keystone, Gloria teamed up with Bobby Vernon. The two made short, silly movies that people loved, like The Danger Girl and Teddy at the Throttle. In these films, Gloria often played the role of a helpless woman in trouble, like being tied to train tracks and needing to be saved. One of their funniest movies was The Sultan's Wife, where Gloria gets kidnapped by a sultan and Bobby comes to rescue her. People enjoyed her performances, but Gloria didn't like this kind of comedy. She thought it was too silly and messy and dreamed of doing more serious acting. In fact, she even ruined her audition for Charlie Chaplin's His New Job on purpose, because she didn't want a big role in his slapstick style of movies. Everything changed for Gloria in 1918 when Cecil B. DeMille, one of Hollywood's greatest directors, noticed her. When she first met him, she was amazed. His office was grand, with big windows, fancy rugs, and walls full of old weapons. Gloria felt small and nervous, but DeMille saw something special in her. It took a year before they could work together because of legal problems with her studio. But when they finally did, it changed Gloria's life. In 1919, DeMille cast Gloria in Don't Change Your Husband. This movie helped her move from slapstick comedies to more serious and glamorous roles. The film told the story of a woman who leaves her messy husband, only to regret it later and win him back by reinventing herself. Audiences loved the idea, and it became a huge success, running for weeks in theaters, a rare achievement back then. It made Swanson a star almost overnight and started her partnership with DeMille, which would make her one of the most glamorous actresses in Hollywood. What made the film unforgettable wasn't just the story, it was Swanson's wardrobe. Her costumes were so extravagant, they cost $150,000 for the year, an amount that would be millions today. Designed by Claire West, the clothes were more than beautiful. They set a new standard for Hollywood style. Audiences couldn't get enough of Swanson's fashion, especially since her character's transformation mirrored the growing confidence of women after World War I. Many women wanted to dress like her, and she quickly became a role model. Later that year, Swanson worked with DeMille again on Male and Female, and it had one of the most daring scenes ever filmed at the time. In the movie, she posed with a full-grown lion. It was risky, and everyone on set was nervous, including DeMille, who stood nearby with a gun just in case something went wrong. Swanson insisted on doing it herself, showing how fearless she was. Her costume for the scene was covered in pearls and so heavy that two men had to help carry her around. The gamble paid off. The scene became iconic and showed Swanson's courage and style. But the danger was real. A few weeks later, the same lion killed someone. Swanson didn't just star in movies, she became a symbol of Hollywood glamour. Over the next few years, she appeared in 6 films with DeMille, each one more lavish than the last. Her look, from her clothes to her makeup, was carefully crafted to feel unattainable and luxurious. Women everywhere started copying her style. She was one of the first stars to make makeup like mascara and lipstick popular at a time when it wasn't widely accepted. Her dramatic eyes, bold lips, and elegant outfits set trends for an entire generation. Swanson's influence wasn't limited to the screen. She became Hollywood's first true fashion icon. Working with costume designer Claire West, she helped create outfits that were not just beautiful, but unforgettable. Fans adored her look so much that stores started selling hats and dresses inspired by her. Even years later, in 1951, she launched her own clothing line, proving her impact on fashion went far beyond her film career. Her jewelry was just as extravagant as her clothes. DeMille spared no expense, spending what would now be millions on accessories for her roles. In Male and Female, her famous pearl costume set trends for years. Even off-screen, Swanson's personal jewelry collection was stunning. In 1925, Gloria Swanson made a decision that shocked everyone in Hollywood. She left her high-paying job at Famous Players Lasky, where she earned $6,500 a week, to join United Artists. This was no small move. United Artists offered her something no other studio would: freedom to control her own films and a share of the profits. Swanson was tired of how studios treated their stars, especially after a terrible experience filming Madame Sans-Gêne in France. The production had left her completely drained, both physically and emotionally. She also held a deep grudge against studio head Jesse Lasky, who had forced her into a secret abortion that nearly ended her life. Famous Players Lasky tried to keep her by offering an unheard-of salary of $1 million a year, but Swanson refused. On March 30th, 1925, she signed with United Artists, becoming one of the first female stars to take control of her career. It was a bold move, one that changed Hollywood forever. Swanson didn't just act in films, she produced them too. Her first attempt at producing The Love of Sunya, 1927, was anything but easy. The budget was enormous for the time, nearly $1 million, and the production was plagued with problems. Swanson insisted on hiring a director who wasn't used to handling such big projects, and that only added to the chaos. The filming took longer than expected and cost more money than planned. Swanson was involved in every step, from picking the script to casting the actors and even planning the film's promotion. When it finally premiered in New York, the film broke box office records in its first week, earning $144,000. But even with that success, it barely managed to cover its costs. Swanson learned quickly that producing movies was much harder than it seemed. Still, Swanson didn't give up. Later in 1927, she started her own company, Gloria Productions. She wanted even more control over her work. One of her most daring projects was Sadie Thompson, 1928, based on a story about prostitution and religious hypocrisy. The story was considered too controversial, and Hollywood censors initially tried to block it. But Swanson was smart. She bought the rights to the original story instead of the stage adaptation, which the censors had banned. Then she personally met with the head of the censorship office and convinced him to approve the film by highlighting its moral message. Sadie Thompson became a big hit. Critics loved it, audiences flocked to see it, and Swanson earned her first Academy Award nomination. She had proven that she could succeed on her own terms. But independence came at a cost. By 1928, Swanson was nearly broke. Running her own production company was expensive, and her luxurious lifestyle didn't help. She had only $65 left in her bank account. That's when Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. stepped in. He became her financial advisor and, later, her lover. Kennedy helped her restructure her company and even funded her next project, Queen Kelly, 1929. Unfortunately, this film turned into a disaster. The director, Erich von Stroheim, was brilliant but difficult to work with, and the budget spiraled out of control. Swanson eventually shut down production, leaving the film unfinished. It was a huge financial loss and a blow to her reputation. Even with these setbacks, Swanson achieved something remarkable. At a time when Hollywood was dominated by men, she was one of the very few women running her own production company. She took on bold and controversial projects, refusing to let anyone tell her what she could or couldn't do. She even went beyond movies. In 1938, she started a company that helped European scientists escape the dangers of World War II. Her work saved lives and brought valuable knowledge to the United States. By the time Swanson stopped producing films in 1933, she had made 7 movies on her own. Not all of them were hits, but her determination to control her career set an example for others. She proved that stars didn't have to rely on big studios to succeed. Despite the on-screen success, her personal life was turbulent. At just 17 years old, Swanson married actor Wallace Beery in 1916. The marriage was a nightmare from the start. According to her autobiography, Beery raped her on their wedding night and later forced her to take a substance that caused a miscarriage when she became pregnant. Their relationship quickly fell apart, and Swanson filed for divorce within a year, finalizing it in 1918. To make matters worse, Beery relied on Swanson for financial support during their marriage, adding even more strain to an already toxic union. This rocky start set the tone for the turbulent relationships that would follow in her life. Swanson went on to marry several more times, each marriage bringing its own drama. Her second husband, Herbert K. Somborn, whom she married in 1920, gave her a daughter, but also dragged her through a messy divorce in 1923. Somborn accused her of having affairs with famous men, including director Cecil B. DeMille and actor Rudolph Valentino. The scandal dominated headlines and even led Paramount Studios to add a morality clause to her contract, as Hollywood stars were coming under increasing scrutiny at the time. Her third marriage, to French aristocrat Henri de la Falaise, lasted longer and ended amicably in 1930, but it wasn't without its complications. During this time, Swanson had a high-profile affair with Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., father of future President John F. Kennedy. The affair began in 1927 and lasted 3 years. Kennedy, a powerful businessman, initially seemed like an ally, helping Swanson fund films like The Love of Sunya and Queen Kelly. However, their relationship became toxic. Kennedy took control of her career decisions and, unbeknownst to her, charged an expensive gift to her account, leaving her feeling betrayed. By the end of their relationship, Swanson was financially ruined and emotionally drained. Her fourth marriage, to Michael Farmer in 1931, ended just 3 years later, mired in accusations of jealousy and infidelity. Her fifth and final marriage, to William M. Davey, was brief and acrimonious, ending in 1945. Through all of these relationships, Swanson's personal life became a source of public fascination, with every scandal splashed across headlines, overshadowing her professional achievements. Gloria Swanson's career took a dramatic turn when sound films became the new Hollywood standard. While many silent film stars struggled to adapt, Gloria made an unforgettable debut in her first talkie, The Trespasser, 1929. The film was made in just 21 days, which was almost unheard of for the time. Despite the rushed production, it turned out to be a huge success. Gloria didn't just act. She also sang a song called Love, Your Magic Spell is Everywhere, which became a hit. When the film premiered in London, fans went wild. They mobbed her with so much excitement that police had to step in to control the crowd. The movie earned over $1.5 million, an incredible amount for a film with a modest budget of $700,000 to $25,000. It was clear that Gloria was more than ready for the sound era. Her performance in the movie didn't just win over audiences, it earned her a second Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. This was a big moment for her, as it proved she could transition to sound films when so many other silent stars couldn't. Critics praised her for speaking her lines naturally without relying on the exaggerated gestures that were common in silent movies. At just 30 years old, Gloria showed incredible range by playing a character closer to 40, using makeup to make herself look older. She was proving her versatility and talent in every way. But while The Trespasser was a huge hit, the success didn't last. The Great Depression was changing what audiences wanted, and Gloria's next few films didn't perform well. Movies like What a Widow, 1930, and Tonight or Never, 1931, failed to capture the same magic. By 1934, her film Music in the Air was such a flop that it effectively ended her reign as one of Hollywood's top stars. Over just a few years, her films had lost more than $500,000. It was a crushing blow to her career and finances. Even though her time as a box office queen was over, Gloria didn't give up. In the 1940s and 1950s, she reinvented herself in ways no one expected. She tried a comeback in the 1941 film Father Takes a Wife, but it didn't make much of an impact. Instead of dwelling on her struggles in film, Gloria turned to television. In 1948, she hosted her own show, The Gloria Swanson Hour. She also kept busy with radio appearances and tours, staying connected to audiences in new ways. Gloria Swanson wasn't just a famous actress. She had a curious mind and a big heart. In the late 1930s, while people still thought of her as a glamorous silent film star, she surprised everyone by diving into inventions. She loved coming up with ideas for everyday problems, like making a dustless broom. She often read Popular Scientist's magazine, which gave her new ideas. In 1939, She started a company called Multiprizes. This company worked on patents and helped create and sell new inventions. During its few years of operation, Multiprizes made some amazing things. One invention was a special cutting tool made of carbide steel alloy that changed how factories worked. Another was the first plastic buttons for clothes, something so small but incredibly useful. Some even say her company came up with the extension cord, which is now a must-have in every home. Gloria also had a dream of creating paint that glowed in the dark. She thought it would be great for movies or even for military use, though this idea never quite worked out. Even so, it showed how forward-thinking she was. But Gloria didn't stop at just inventing things. Around the same time, she learned about Jewish scientists in Nazi Germany who were in danger. These scientists were either Jewish or against the Nazi regime, and many were being arrested or worse. Gloria saw this as a chance to help. She used her company, Multiprizes, to rescue some of these inventors and bring them to safety in the United States. She spent $200,000, a huge amount of money back then, to set up offices in New York City, right in Rockefeller Plaza. She hired a team and made the company look like a normal business so these inventors could keep working without raising suspicion. Getting them out of Europe wasn't easy. Gloria sent countless letters and cables, made trips across the Atlantic, and worked on getting them visas. She even had help from her ex-husband, Henri, who spoke several languages and used his connections. In the end, she managed to save 4 inventors. Sadly, a 5th person couldn't escape and is believed to have died in a concentration camp. One of the inventors she rescued was Richard Kobler, an Austrian engineer. He had been arrested multiple times by the Nazis and had fled to Switzerland. Gloria got him to the US, where he continued his work. He later invented the talking typewriter, which paved the way for tools like dictaphones and speed dial on phones. Gloria's efforts saved lives and helped advance technology. Gloria Swanson's return to fame with Sunset Boulevard in 1950 was a story almost as dramatic as the movie itself. She had been one of Hollywood's biggest stars during the silent film era, but by her early 50s, she was nearly forgotten. Then came the role of Norma Desmond, a washed-up actress trying to reclaim her glory. The film was a huge hit, making over $5 million at the box office, worth about $56 million today, and earning 11 Oscar nominations. Swanson's performance turned her into a star again, proving she still had what it took. But Swanson almost didn't get the role. Director Billy Wilder first offered it to Mae West, who didn't want to play a character that reminded her of her own fading fame. He then considered other silent-era legends like Greta Garbo and Mary Pickford, but none of them worked out. It was George Cukor, a famous Hollywood director, who suggested Swanson. At first, she didn't want to audition, saying, "I've made 20 films for Paramount. Why do I need a screen test?" Cukor didn't back down, warning her, "If they ask for 10 screen tests, you do them, or I'll shoot you myself." Swanson finally agreed, and it turned out to be the best decision of her life. Swanson's performance as Norma Desmond felt real because the character's story mirrored her own. She knew what it was like to be a forgotten star. In one scene, Norma watches an old silent film, which was actually a clip of Queen Kelly, a real movie Swanson had starred in decades earlier. This gave the scene an emotional weight that no one else could have delivered. Swanson also argued with the director about her look. He wanted her to appear older, but she insisted that a rich and vain woman like Norma would stay glamorous. In the end, they made her co-star William Holden look younger instead, keeping Norma just as dazzling as Swanson imagined her. The role earned Swanson her third Oscar nomination for Best Actress, and many people thought she would win. But at the 1951 Academy Awards, the prize went to Judy Holliday for Born Yesterday. Swanson was heartbroken, but she didn't leave empty-handed. She won the Golden Globe for her performance, which still helped cement her big comeback. What makes Swanson's story even more fascinating is how much her life and the movie intertwined. After the success of Sunset Boulevard, she tried to turn the movie into a stage musical. She hired 2 young writers to work on it, but legal issues with Paramount stopped the project. Adding to the drama, Swanson reportedly fell in love with one of the writers, which mirrored the love triangle in the film. The musical never happened, but this chapter of her life was later turned into a documentary called Boulevard, a Hollywood story. Swanson's journey back to fame was filled with struggles, surprises, and moments that blurred the line between her real life and the movies. In the end, Sunset Boulevard wasn't just her comeback. It was the perfect reflection of who she was, a star who never gave up, even when the spotlight faded.